Brabham took the lead late in the race and won, moving to the 4 in defense of his title. But in April at Road Atlanta, he suffered a tire failure at 180 miles an hour and a violent crash. Miraculously, the champion emerged in one piece, but his body and his hopes of a 5th straight title are badly bruised. Like Brabham, Juan Manuel Fangio bears a legendary racing name. But unlike Brabham, Fangio has yet to claim the IMSA crown. At Sebring in March, Fangio demonstrated all the flair of his uncle, a 5-time world champion, pushing his Toyota to the limit to win and move it to title contention. Davy Jones has neither a fancy racing pedigree nor a season championship, but he is the winningest driver of the last 12 months, and this, he swears, will be his season. At his disposal is the most potent weapon in the sport, the Jaguar that won last year's world championship. With it, Jones has taken maximum points twice and holds the lead in the championship standings. Today, Brabham, Fangio, and Jones renew their title rivalry as each seeks to master Lime Rock. ESPN, the world leader in motorsports coverage, presents Speedworld. As the strains of the national anthem reverberate off the Berkshire Hills, we have perfect conditions at Lime Rock Park in Connecticut, welcoming the 5th round of the International Motorsports Association Camel GT Series, the Toyota Trucks Lime Rock Grand Prix. Hello once again, everyone. I'm Bob Varsha. Welcome to a beautiful day at Lime Rock. 20 years ago, IMSA first came to this great racetrack, but it celebrates its 35th racing season this year, and the intervening New England winters have not been kind to it. This is the toughest race these drivers and their incredible cars will visit all season long. And for more on what the surface of the track may mean to those drivers, let's get down to the pit lane and Marty Reid.
Thanks, Bob. I feel like I should be talking to you with either an arm sling or maybe a crutch. The injured reserve list on this rough track is going to take a pounding today. It looks like an NFL football team. Take a look at what we're talking about. Tommy Kendall is going to be starting this race. He's just getting over serious feet injuries, but earlier in this week, he ends up with some torn muscle cartilage in his ribs right on the left side of the car, and that is really been very painful to him. He did not qualify, and he is going to start in the back of the field. They're not sure he's going to be able to make the race. They do have him bound up and ready to go. Then take a look also here. This is the brace that Jeff Brabham is going to be wearing. He's still suffering a very stiff and sore neck and shoulder area. Chip Robinson also has a broken shoulder. Between the two of them, they may make one healthy driver.
All right, thank you, Marty. With me to call the action from the booth today, the former lap record holder here for many years, David Hobbs. David, Porsche won that first Camel GT race at Lime Rock many years ago, but since then, the 962 model has been passed with new technology from Nissan and Toyota, and most especially Jaguar.
Well, for years, Bob, the lap record here stayed at around about 50 seconds, and the last time I was on the pole here in a GTP car was at a 49 and change. And then suddenly aerodynamic and engine development took over, and the cars absolutely rocketed up. And Davy Jones, just the other day, set a new qualifying record at 43.9 seconds. That's 3 seconds under the old outright lap record, which, of course, used to include no chicane. Now there's chicane as well. 3 seconds doesn't sound much, but in terms of miles an hour on a short circuit like this, it's 10 miles an hour. Technology goes on, but driver's physique does not. And with 8 out of 10 corners here being right-handers, they're going to have a very tough afternoon to put up with all that G-force.
Tremendous G-forces on the drivers. The Jag, however, is not the newest car on the grid. With more on that, let's go back down to the pit lane and Rick DeBruhl.
Well, this is the 4th race of the season, but it's only the 2nd race for the Mazda team. And in fact, it's the 1st race where both of the Mazda cars have made it onto the grid. They've had some teething problems. The problem, quite frankly, has been this thing down here. It's the muffler of the car. The exhaust gases from the Mazda engine are so hot that in the first couple of races of the season, it was literally catching on fire. Now, this is a new generation muffler. It used to be that the coating was on the outside. Now that's been moved to the inside. The result is it runs a lot cooler, it doesn't catch on fire, and Mazda's looking forward to this race for the first time this season.
All right, thank you, Rick. That Mazda engine producing all that heat is the same 4-rotor model that took the brand to the championship at last summer's 24 Hours of Le Mans. We'll see it in action for the first time today. ESPN Speedworld coverage of the Toyota Trucks Lime Rock Camel Grand Prix is brought to you by Toyota. Straightaway of the 1.54-mile Lime Rock racing circuit. We are ready for that most important command. Standing by to give it, NBC Nightly News anchor Tom Brokaw.
We hope that we have a memorable race on this Memorial Day, and it's my privilege now to give the time-honored command. Drivers, start your engines.
Go, 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 go. Roll up. Have a good shot.
Engines firing on the grid. Tom Brokaw lives in the area. Several of his predecessors anchoring the NBC Nightly News have actually raced here at Lime Rock, including Dave Garraway more than 3 decades ago. You see the BMW safety car pulling out. There is our pole sitter. Right now, David Hobbs, the former lap record holder, will give us an up-close look at Lime Rock Park.
Let's take a lap with Andy Evans down the very bumpy front straight into turn 1. The double apex right-hander, pretty tough on the driver's neck. Making a good job of the exit here because we have to have a very good exit from this corner into these. The S's, turn 2. Left-hander. Again, he wants to stay well to the left here because this right-hander launches him onto no-name straight, which, as you can see, is not very straight. Still pretty bumpy and weaves around as he comes into the climbing turn. Hard on the brakes, down to third. At the top of this corner now, we go into the newish chicane. Right, left, right. Bumpy on the exit as we go onto the back straight, up to the gears, into West Bend. A very fast bend here. Use all of the road and a bit more, some drivers, as they go under the bridge and go down into the diving turn. Absolutely gut-wrenching at the bottom here. Very, very bumpy as it gets them onto this important front straight. GTP cars, 180 miles an hour as they cross the line.
And on that front straightaway, there are bumps that produce some 4 G's of force right up the driver's spines as they sit in these cockpits. The temperature about 65 to 70 degrees, but there is very little air in these sleek, streamlined prototype chassis. The drivers' inside temperatures probably about 110, 120 degrees, I would say. As the field begins to make its way around for one of 2 pace laps, let's take a look at how they line up with our Sears die-hard starting grid. On the pole for the second straight race with his second straight record-shattering lap, Davy Jones of the Jaguar XJR14 with a lap at 126 miles an hour. Right next to him, the man chasing him for the championship, Juan Manuel Fangio II in a Toyota Eagle Mark III, his lap 123 miles an hour. Row 2, P.J. Jones, Fangio's teammate, son of the great Parnelli Jones, in another Toyota at 121.9 miles an hour. Next to him, Team Nissan, Jeff Brabham, the 4-time defending champion, will start, but he is hurt. Chip Robinson and Bob Earl will back him up. On row 3, Wayne Taylor, the South African, will start a Chevrolet normally aspirated GTP car. Hugh Fuller will follow him. Next to him, Bryce Cobb will attempt to go solo in the new Mazda RX-792P. On row 4, Pete Halsmer, the former sedan champion and Cobb's teammate for Mazda. Next to him will be Argentinian Oscar Larori in the highest-ranking Porsche 962 in the field. On row 5, young David Tennyson, once the most improved driver in this series, has a normally aspirated Chevrolet Spice chassis. Jay Cochran will back him up. Tennyson not feeling well today. Next to him, Gianpiero Moretti, who has raced here at Lime Rock almost since GTP racing began here. He's in a Porsche sharing with Italian Massimo Sigala. Row 6, our Camel Lights pole leader, Parker Johnstone from Redmond, Oregon at 110.9 miles an hour. Dan Marvin will drive with him. They have not been off a Camel Lights pole this year. But right next to them, the former world champion from Spain, Fermín Valdés, sharing with Andy Evans in a Buick-powered Kudzu chassis. On row 7, Charles Morgan will start his Buick-Kudzu. He'll be sharing with Florida Tommy Riggins today. Next to them, Claude Brana of France, 30-something years of age, hoping to prepare for this year's 24 Hours of Le Mans, driving here with Frenchman Francois Migaud. On row 8, Jim Downing, a 3-time Camel Lights champion, has a Buick-powered Kudzu Camel Lights chassis. He'll be sharing with Colorado's Tim McAdam. Next to them, Mark Rodriguez from California will share with David Rocha in a Buick-powered Spice chassis. On the 9th row, Tom Hessert, a New Jersey car dealer and racer, started in stock cars many years ago, will have a Buick-powered Spice Camel Lights chassis, sharing with Bob Shader. And then Tommy Kendall, with his tender ribs, in the Chevrolet GTP that had electrical problems, he could not post a qualifying time. Here are our race conditions: 65 degrees, broken clouds, not really overcast. We expect no rain today, but we do have a nice strong breeze to keep a record-sized crowd here cool.
Pace car lights have gone out as they come down the diving turn. The field gathering itself together. This, of course, is the most nerve-wracking part of any race. Strong field, especially at the front end here. The Toyota hanging right in there alongside Davy Jones. Does not want Davy Jones to get away from him.
IMSA starter Jim Sidley has the green flag in his hands. They bring up the revs. It is turbocharged engine weather here at Lime Rock. Davy Jones takes them down to the first corner. Fangio to his left. And Fangio will get to the corner first. Acura-Spice in the first corner. You see if he killed the engine? No, he'll get it turned around.
Oh, so now we're going to see a struggle. Wayne Taylor, if you remember, last year started from the back and unfortunately took his teammate Tom Kendall out, who's also starting from the back today with those sore ribs. So these two guys are going to have a big struggle through the field.
Your leader is Juan Fangio. Let's go back and take a look at what happened to Wayne Taylor at the start. Right in the middle of that clutch of cars at the center of your screen.
Just got tagged by, I can't tell you exactly who did tag him. The Toyota, of course, only a little engine, the smallest engine in the race, 2.2 litre, 4-cylinder, turbocharged. Tremendous boost in this car, and he used that to his advantage at the start and managed to out-drag the Jaguar. So this could be a tremendous race on our hands now.
They run about 4 times the boost of your average Indy car in that little Toyota, 2.1 litre, just behind them, though, that naturally aspirated V8 engine, a Formula One engine, originally developed by Cosworth for Ford, now badged for Jaguar in IMSA Racing.
The Toyota engine is very like the 4-cylinder BMW that won the World Championship in 1984 with Piquet at the wheel.
And we have a correction from the pits. It was actually Hugh Fuller who started that number 5 car, and not Wayne Taylor.
That would explain it, probably.
Across the start line they come. Fangio doing what he has to do. Get in front of the Jaguar and try and keep him behind. They are 3 miles an hour in lap speed apart.
There you see young Davy. He started his GTP career in 1986 as one of my teammates in the BMW team, and had his first GTP pole that year at Watkins Glen, and has since gone on to great things. Here's Tommy Kendall.
Tommy Kendall's already made his way past. Right there at the back of your picture, that's Parker Johnstone in the Acura-Spice, the pole sitter in the Camel Lights class. That tells you something about the speed differential between the big GTP cars and the slightly less powerful 3-liter Camel Lights cars.
The number 12 car is officially the Corvette GTP now, although it used to be, of course, the Intrepid last year. A very, very quick, highly developed car, tremendous downforce, very effective on these short circuits where a lot of downforce is required. 125-mile-an-hour average track, so it's quite quick, but still needs a tremendous amount of downforce.
Let me correct you a little bit, David. They're calling that a Chevrolet GTP. They had a Corvette GTP in mind, but when Jaguar rolled out this 3.5-liter specimen, all of a sudden Chevrolet said, wait a minute, that's not the kind of car we thought we wanted to have. We're going to start all over. So the Corvette is a ways down the road. Call it a Chevrolet GTP. Juan Manuel Fangio leads Davy Jones, then P.J. Jones, and then Jeff Brabham. We're along the shores of Salmon Kill Creek in the Berkshire Hills of Connecticut. We'll be back with more. Right sun on No Name Straight on the backside. Then they'll brake hard and
coming up at Morgan into the chicane. Now this is going to really pack them all together. Morgan will be slower through there than they are. And now, of course, who's going to be able to slip by before they get to West Bend? Nobody.
Well, it looks like he's going to hold them behind until they come down the hill. They will not.
Whoa!
Juan Fangio says, I'm out of here. And you saw at the back of your screen the other Toyota, P.J. Jones, now coming around Morgan. Davy Jones says, I don't want to wait. I'm going to go down the inside and one.
Just look at the torture that these cars are putting up with here. Those rear wings, they have to be anchored so firmly here because they are put into all sorts of shock loads that they don't have, obviously, tremendous downforce on them, but they're not used to all this bouncing up and down.
Like a Formula One car or an Indy car, they depend on a level surface for that downforce. They need to keep the pocket of air under the car fairly stable, and when they bounce like this, it is not stable and they lose a lot of that downforce. There is P.J. Jones, who was caught up with his battle for the lead. 99 in the white Toyota is Juan Manuel Fangio. The white number 2 Jaguar is Davy Jones.
Going to the downhill again. Now you're going to get I thought they were going to get cut off there. This is going to be a little break for Fangio. Whoa!
Right now it is Fangio, Jones. You see P.J. Jones coming up, and then right there in that red and blue car was Jeff Brabham. And there is the 5th place car. That's the number 7 Porsche 962 of Oscar Larari.
And right, a very, very experienced driver in this type of car. And right behind him is the 77 car.
That's the Mazda of Bryce Cobb, who drove Porsches for many years. In fact, he drove for the Porsche factory at Le Mans.
Drove Porsches and, of course, drove the factory Jaguar here in IMSA GTP racing for a number of years before moving on to the new Mazda GTP prototype, or And this is the best run they've had. There's Oscar Larori.
That's Jim Downing's blue and yellow Camel Lights car they are going around right now. You're looking at the ultimate extension of the Porsche. Now we're back up front. A 99 Toyota is Fangio. Davy Jones still second. P.J. Jones still third. Jeff Brabham fourth. You get the sense that Davy Jones is just biding his time, David?
I get the sense that he's keeping a good check of his, let's shall we say, somewhat enthusiastic nature.
Keep in mind, it was 96 degrees here at Lime Rock on Saturday when these guys qualified. That makes for much of that 3-mile-an-hour time speed differential between the quicker Jaguar of Jones and the Toyota of Fangio. But it's a much cooler day, maybe 30 degrees cooler today. That will help Fangio's turbo.
It will. It'll help all the engines, of course, develop more power, but it helps the turbo engines a lot more. So this is absolutely perfect for them. And, of course, it keeps them running cooler during the afternoon. Although when the sun comes out, the temperature probably goes up to 65 or 70. Davey has another look down the inside in Big Bend.
Bouncing down the straightaway. Nothing to choose between them.
That little Toyota's got some grunt off that Big Bend. It certainly makes its presence felt. And that is just a 2.2 litre, 100 watts, 70-odd cubic inches, 4 cylinders. Unbelievably powerful.
In fact, that's basically the same engine that Dan Gurney's All-American Racers teams brought to IMSA Racing in a sedan class known as GTO back then. Turbocharged cars, they won a championship. Chris Cord won a driver's title, and now that same engine powers their GTP cars. We are on board now. Here's the battle in the Camel Lights class.
And if we could see in his mirror, about 3 inches behind him is Parker Johnston. There you see. There you don't quite see it. There you see them just going into the pit. There you see them right now. As you can see, Parker Johnson all over the Buick-powered number 44 car there.
Andy Evans and Fermin Velez driving together.
I suspect that that's Fermin driving at the moment. Very accomplished driver. Drove quite a bit in the World Sports Car Championship. Very, very quick. I remember, oh, there's the 77 Price Cobb. Had a bit of a spin to the power. 180 degrees, get himself facing the right direction again. Looks very spectacular. Can meet up on the drive shaft. One thing in Formula 1, they only weigh 1,100 pounds. These cars weigh about 1,750, 1,800. So that slipped him back through the field a little bit. Shame that, because he was very close to Larori and not so far behind this leading quartet.
We've had a change up front. Davy Jones has gotten by Juan Fangio. There is the number 2 Bud Light Jaguars, Davy Jones, now living in Lake Tahoe, California. He got by Juan Fangio, and I'm not sure Fangio doesn't have a problem. P.J. Jones was pulling up on his teammate.
Well, that would be a disappointment for Juan Fangio and the whole Toyota team.
Tom Hessert making way for this man. Davy Jones started his racing career in Canada at the age of 15 because he wasn't old enough to race here in the United States. Competed over in Europe in Formula Ford against Martin Brundle and Ayrton Senna, the world Formula 1 driving champion.
Well, of course, he did the keynote series, the British Formula 3 Championship. Whoa! And there's P.J. Jones is all over his teammate now. Maybe Fangio does have a problem holding up Jones, and, of course, that's allowing them both to fall into the clutches of Jeff Brabham in that blue and red Nissan, who at the moment is separated from him by lap traffic, but he'll be right there momentarily. There
was a puff of smoke from Fangio's car right there, the 99 machine, a few laps ago, but we don't know if it was tire smoke or an engine problem. His teammate PJ right there, racing for the first time on this track.
Son, of course, of Parnelli Jones, so famous back in the 60s as an IndyCar driver, and of course one of the best Trans Am drivers that we've ever seen. Tough, uncompromising driver in his day.
What a comparison between those Toyota teammates. There is the gap up to Davy Jones in first. Fangio, who has tested Formula 1 machinery, driven sports cars, came up the European route, while the man in this car, the 98 machine, P.J. Jones, grew up in the dirt tracks of California, racing off-road in the desert, racing TQ midgets and then midgets, and finally the great big 600 and 700 horsepower sprint cars. They are teammates with Toyota today. Now here's the battle in Camel Lights. Fermin Velez and Andy Evans in the blue 44. Just behind them, Parker Johnstone and Dan Marvin.
And coming up to put a lap on Tom Hessert in the number 9 car. That's the red car. Trying to make room there for you. So that's left Parker Johnson out in the pole.
This is just about the part of the racetrack where Parker Johnstone was touched and put on his lid by Wayne Taylor in a P-car last year. Oh, look at the gap. Opens up immediately in traffic. Incidentally, that wild paint scheme on the blue number 44 car and its sister car number 45 is designed by automotive artist Randy Owens from way in Virginia.
44 car through Big Bend.
There is Fermin Velez, the former world champion, hard at work in the cockpit of that number 44 car.
And that kick back to the steering wheel gives you an idea of just how bumpy it is here. Quick look in the mirror.
The Mazdas comes whistling by.
Of course, when you're racing for the lead in your class, it's so hard to have to concentrate on the rearview mirror all the time for these other much faster GT prototypes who are coming up on you. And obviously did not see the Denon car there of David Tennyson from Canada. David Tennyson, of course, ran for 2 years in Camel Light, and now he's moved up, taking his sponsor Denon with him, and that, of course, is a Chevrolet Spice racing in the GTP class.
In fact, it's a 6.3-liter small block Chevy engine, fuel injected. Meanwhile, down the hill, whistling onto the front straightaway and reaching up to 140 miles an hour. Davy Jones. Into the corner he goes as the laps continue. We are beginning lap number 17 here at Lime Rock. Stay with us. Lots more leader in Toyota trucks. Ron Prix here at Lime Rock. Davy Jones, your top 5. Juan Manuel Fangio the second. His third, Jeff Brabham has taken over third, and the leader is in the wall. Davy Jones is hard into the tire barrier off that fast downhill right-hander. The toughest turn on the racetrack and the fastest.
Well, our commentary box, of course, is just right over the road from there. And I must say that I've been eyeing this corner up all weekend. I find it hard to believe that I used to go down there with as much abandon as I used to. And it is a very dangerous corner. There's virtually no run-up area. And these cars are exiting that corner and somewhere.
There's Davy Jones's new wife, Mary Elizabeth, the former Mary Elizabeth Meekum. His father has been in racing for a long time. You saw that corner worker give an umpire's safe signal from baseball. That means the driver is okay. Davy Jones climbs out. Let's take another look at what happened. At the back of your screen,
Ooh, just
slid off.
Understeered straight off the road. Could be anything. I mean, it could have been a deflating front tire, I'd say.
Here's from another angle. Right there.
Well, it went off so straight, it's hard to... Wow. God, he's so lucky he didn't climb that rail. The barrier is far too low at that point, because if they do climb the barrier, they're straight into those big trees.
A scary resemblance to the horrible crash Tommy Kendall suffered at Watkins Glen just a year ago. But he caught the tire barrier at an angle. The car flopped in the air. As you can see, Davy Jones appears to be okay. The emergency rapid response vehicle on the scene with a medical professional to check him out. Well, the yellow flag is out all the way around the 1.5 mile of Lime Rock Park. We'll be back live in just a moment. Jaguar of Davy Jones, who was leading at the time, skidded off the track. There is P.J. Jones's Toyota with the engine cover off. He's in the pits. Rick DeBruhl is there.
Well, they brought it in to change tires, which looked at first like just a routine stop, and then they yanked off the back end of the car. And now they're working on the back end of the car. You see something coming out of the transmission. We're not quite sure what the problem is. We'll get an update, though, as soon as we can. I'll let you know.
So 2 of the front runners, the first and third place cars, are in dire straits. We know Davy Jones is out of the race. We don't yet know about P.J. Jones. Meanwhile, Juan Fangio has inherited first place. That'll move Jeff Brabham up into second. And this will be a good opportunity for all of the cars to make a visit to the pits and get things checked out. There is the race leader, Juan Fangio, with a lap car of Tom Hessert behind him. And somewhere behind him is the 4-time series champion Jeff Brabham, driving in pain this weekend, hoping to score some points and move up. He is third in points coming in to overall points leader Davy Jones and second place Juan Fangio.
Well, one hates to say it, but you remember yesterday afternoon's little episodes at the Indy 500. Let's hope we don't have another day like that where we're under caution for a long period in this 2-hour race. But what a shame to lose Davy Jones so early on. I mean, dominant in the when he got past Fangio. I mean, he absolutely rocketed up into the distance. The way it left the road, kind of hard to see from those two camera angles, but boy, it looked like a funny exit to me. It looked like an awfully straight line exit, as if something had just broken or the tire had gone down.
B.J. Jones, as you see, being sent back out on the racetrack in his Toyota. You saw the red-blue 83 of Jeff Brabham circulating. B.J.'s going to want to get out there before the pace car comes around so he doesn't go a lap down or another lap down.
I'm going to let him. They're holding him, so that puts him a lap down. That looked like oil coming out to me, too. And when you see that much oil coming out, does not bode well for a 2-hour race. As we see Davy Jones' car being dragged by us.
At the background, Juan Fangio brought his Toyota to the pits. There is the leading car. Rick DeBruhl is still in the Toyota pit.
Now, this is the pit stop that B.J. Jones was supposed to have. They're simply bringing him in, putting in fuel, putting on tires, and sending him back out. At this point, it does look very routine. They're not looking at anything else. They'll get the tires on, get him back out into the race the way he's supposed to be. Update on B.J. Jones, they were putting oil into the car. As a matter of fact, several quarts of oil went into the car, so he has an obvious problem.
That crash took place on lap number 20. And one asks the question whether it might be suspension-oriented on this very rough lime rock track. Rick DeBruhl takes a closer look at how two of the teams are handling their suspension troubles here at Lime Rock. Track Facts are brought to you by Quaker State. A Big Q is one tough motor oil.
When it comes to the bumps on the track, they're the same for everyone, but each team has its own particular way of dealing with them, and sometimes those solutions are very, very different. Here on the Toyota team, for example, their key way of dealing with those problems are shock absorbers and these things, the springs. Now, these are softer springs. They'll absorb more of the bounce, but they bottom out easier. These stiffer springs, well, they don't absorb the bounce as much, but they also don't bottom out as much. And then there's ride height.
Ride height has a sweet spot, and below a certain amount you lose downforce, or above a certain amount you lose downforce. So you've got a little area, probably no more than that much to work within. So you work with springs and with dampeners and with tire pressures and that sort of thing to try and stay in that sweet spot.
The Jaguar team does things drastically differently. On the XGR14, they use this thing. It's called a torsion bar. This replaces the spring. Does the exact same thing. The thicker the bar, the less flex. The thinner the bar, the more flex. In fact, this torsion bar would replace this spring, but there's one other advantage.
Well, it's a very quick way of changing the springing medium. It takes about 20 seconds to pop the pins, slide one out, slide one in, put the pins back in. It's very precise.
And those are just two of the examples. As you drive up and down the paddock here, you realize that each one of these transporters has a crew with a different idea about how to tackle that same problem. The one thing they really can't control in life: bumps.
Well, it's kind of a light end to a tough situation for Davy Jones. There you see his car. Look at the damage to that front left corner. Marty Reid is caught up with Davy Jones.
Yeah, Bob, we're right outside the medical center. You can see Davy standing. First off, you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. Boy, those tire walls come up fast. You know, that's one thing about this track is you know, with the modern cars these days and the technology, our corner speeds are so much quicker. And with the bumps and all, that was one of the places that I was concerned about, that as far as the safety point of view. But, you know, the Bud Light Jaguar car, it held up real nice, and I just hope that, you know, I hate to put the crew through it, but, you know, we'll be back in Ohio.
Did something break, or did it just vibrate out of control?
No, something let go. You know, I was sixth gear. You turn into the corner and you accelerate all the way through the corner, pulling a lot of G's, carrying a lot of speed, and I just lost the left front. Either cut a tire or something broke in the suspension, but it just would no longer steer to the right, and I had no choice but straight into the barrier. So it was a hard hit, but you know, it's a strong car, and I'm glad I'm here talking to you now. So
are we.
It's tough, but you know, we've got a strong enough lead in the championship where, you know, the Bud Light Jaguar team will bounce back.
Well, Davy Jones will come out of this race still with the lead in the Camel GT Series, but it may be a much narrower lead. Look who's up front, Jeff Brabham. We'll be back with more. That's the no-name Straight alongside a creek on the back of Lime Rock Park. You see the field filtering through as we await the green flag following a huge wreck by race leader Davy Jones. He was the pole sitter. He will not be able to pick up bonus points. Now that 45 car on the left, Camel Lights car, has stopped. The 6 machine pulling around him. why he is stopping.
That's right, at the pit exit. I'm not quite sure what they're doing down there. Just having a bit of a chat down there.
Now trouble in the pits. This is the number 5 machine of Hugh Fuller and Wayne Taylor. Wayne Taylor is sitting in the car, and Rick DeBruhl has the story.
Well, the problem with Wayne Taylor's car at this point in time is he's having a steering problem. They took the back end off to see if there was a problem with the power steering pump. Now they're looking elsewhere to see if they can solve that problem. But as you can see, they've shut it off, and Wayne Taylor's sitting in the car. They've got a little bit of smoke coming out of the back, but at this point, it doesn't look like they're going very far, very fast.
That's a tough break for Wayne Taylor. He used to be Tommy Kendall's teammate, the MTI team. Oh, there's a fire in there.
Well, that would explain why the steering's got heavy. If the power steering pipes go through there. That's the driver's drink bottle, which is being used to extinguish the flames.
Any port in a storm. Oh, no, proper extinguisher. Well, looks like Wayne Taylor's going to be parked there for a while.
See, a lot of those sort of problems can be put back to the bumpy track. I mean, one hates to harp on this bumpy track, but I mean, these cars shake around. Anything that's attached to the car, whether it's the wing, the driver's water bottle, the steering gear, the suspension itself, all goes to absolute murder out there. What were you saying the other day? That the gauge on the Nissan was giving like a 4G vertical on just on the straight, up and down?
That's right. A G-meter was placed in the Nissan next to the drivers. You see the number 45 car machine that we saw parked at the pit exit. He made his way around. Now he's parked in the pits, and Marty Reid has that story.
Well, actually, guys, they pushed him backward. The crew ran out and got him because he had not made it back out of pit exit all the way, so they allowed him to pull him back in, and they have an electrical problem. Charles Morgan is sitting in the cockpit, and the guys are going after the box, and we'll keep you posted.
All right, we're getting set for a restart now that Davy Jones's purple Jaguar has been pulled away. The Pulsar is out of the race. There are points to be won for the overall race victory. Fast lap and leading the most laps. Right now, Jeff Brabham is out front, and he has a great breakaway just behind him. Oscar Larari in that Porsche. They just rocketed away from that field.
Jeff Brabham almost passed the pace car there before they got to the pits. He legged it from the beginning of the downhill turn.
Let me get back to the point I was making about that 83 car. There was a G-meter put in the car next to Jeff Brabham in testing last Tuesday. And all down the front straightaway, there were little spikes at each bump. 2Gs, 3Gs, as much as 4Gs. And Jeff Brabham, the driver, taking that right up. His damage hurt in a huge wreck at Road Atlanta. So there's a question whether Brabham can go all the way. I mean, stresses.
Coming to the corner now where Davy Jones went off, which is a very steep downhill. Right-hander there and extremely bumpy on the exit. And these cars also are developing over 3Gs of side load there. So the driver's got 3Gs trying to push him out of the passenger's door, and it's got 3 to 4Gs jumping him up and down to the seat.
Now there is the 98 car of P.J. Jones, who's 2 laps down at this point. He's going to try to get one of them back. If he can get back and catch Jeff Brabham, get by, and just behind him, his teammate Juan Fangio is on the lead lap.
Now then, big problem here for this team. If P.J. Jones is leaking oil like we saw, they put some oil in, according to our big reporter, Intrepid Man. If they put a lot of oil in, you can bet your bottom dollar it's still coming out. And where is it going? It's going on his teammate's windshield. The sun comes out, starts to get low in the sky here in the afternoon. Very, very difficult for him indeed.
Toyota's closing up on that Porsche.
Whoa, the Porsche smoking badly there.
Oscar Larari in that Yost racing car, former winners twice at the 24 Hours of Le Mans.
Banjo gets around the boat. Yep, got the Porsche and his teammate in one fell swoop.
Oscar Larari, the only living man ever to call A.J. Foyt stupid and get away with it. He did that at West Palm Beach about 4 years ago when he and A.J. came together. No, I was there. I understood him clearly. Also understood A.J., but I can't repeat what he had to say about Mr. Larari. Let's get down to the pit lane where Rick DeBruhl is standing by with Wayne Taylor.
Well, the crew is still working on the car, but Wayne Taylor's out taking the helmet off. What happened?
The battery appears to have come loose in the side pod and caused a fire which burnt all the wiring. And basically, the first feeling I had was it had no steering. They'd cut off all the supply to the power steering. And so the steering got heavy, and that's why I came in. By the time I got in, a fire had started in the side pod. So I don't think they can fix it.
We've been talking about the bumps on the track all day and the problems they've been causing. What is it like driving with those bumps?
Well, the bumps are ridiculous, and every time we come here, it just gets worse and worse. And when you first go out in the circuit, you think it's impossible, but then what happens is you just get used to it. I mean, it's tremendously hard on the cars and on the drivers. I think the cars are going too fast for this type of track condition.
Wayne Taylor out of the race. Well, unfortunately, Wayne Taylor, of course, is right. I mean, the cars have really outgrown this track. They either need to modify the track or certainly smooth it out.
Juan Fangio goes by. There is Oscar Larari holding up the 98 of P.J. Jones. That Porsche now in its 11th season as a 956/962 design. Many times winner at Le Mans, at Daytona. One of the Camel Lights cars. That's the number 45, our Camel Lights car. Last Porsche victory at this racetrack back in 1987. The late Al Holborn. His son Todd was walking the pits this weekend. There you see Oscar Larari. The design work on this car, the development of this car. This may be one of the most developed designs of all time as they try to keep it competitive. And ironically, though they haven't won a race, Porsche is the only brand that has scored in all 4 races thus far this season.
Well, of course, that number 7 car owned by the Yost Racing Team out of Germany, of course, won the 1991 24-hour race at Daytona, much to everyone's chagrin and surprise and everything else. A tremendous warhorse. Technical enough. It's not a low-tech car, but it's just not quite as high-tech as the Nissan, the Toyota, and of course the new Jaguar.
P.J. Jones is a couple of laps down, but there's a great battle developing there. The two Mazdas are closing up now. There is the overall race leader, Jeff Brabham, looking for the 100th IMSA Camel GT victory for Nissan. Tremendous record for this team. Jeff Brabham, of course, looking for an unprecedented 5th straight series championship. That, of course, is a long way off. We'll be back for more action from Lime Rock. 7, the overall race leader in the number 83 red and blue Nissan, Jeff Brabham, the quadruple defending IMSA Camel GT champion. Oh. Making his way around slower traffic, taking to the
right into pit lane as he whistled by those Camel Light cars. Of course, they in turn are duking it out for the lead.
Now he's catching up to the Camel Lights leader, that blue car to the left of your screen, Fermín Velez of Spain, the first Spanish world champion. Of course, the reigning world rally champion, Carlos Sainz, is another part of the rich Spanish road racing tradition.
Marbella last week. I can see where most of them live. They drive between Marbella and Estepona.
Quit bragging. There's the view that Fermín Velez has up ahead of the overall race leader.
See some oil on Fermín Velez's windscreen there. Jeff Brabham rockets. Downhill turn.
Remember, Jeff Brabham was a questionable medical candidate for this race. Let's find out how he's doing with Marty Reid in the pits.
Well, Bob, we talked to Kaz Kasner and asked him if he's heard anything from Jeff, and he says he's fine so far, which is a bit surprising considering what Wayne Taylor told us just a few minutes ago as far as the course conditions. It is extremely rough. They are keeping a close monitor. Chip Robinson is in the wings, ready to go.
Jeff Brabham has won here twice at Lime Rock. His teammate Chip Robinson, the defending champion in this event, with 3 victories at Lime Rock. Let's move back a little bit. Here is the battle. Well, actually, the Mazdas are running in 4th and 5th position. The 98 Toyota of P.J. Jones is a couple of laps down yet.
Well, he is determined to stay in front of them in case there's a caution flag and he can get one of those laps back. And, of course, is Pete Halsman, the 78 car, and Price Cobb in the 77. Price Cobb has managed to catch them up, so I think he's probably being held up slightly by his teammate here. But this is the first race these cars have made together, so I'm sure they're not going to want to take themselves out in any sort of a race incident. So I think he's going to pick his way past very, very carefully. There you see the number 7, the Collins car, the Oscar Larari, hanging on there in 3rd spot.
78, Pete Halsberg, Vietnam veteran, engineering graduate from Purdue University, one of 12 children, and a great fan of all things having to do with airplanes and aeronautics. He once qualified for the Indianapolis 500 in Indy cars. He has driven sedans with great distinction. Now he's in Mazda's factory GTP program alongside Price Cobb, a guy who had a chance to go to college once. And he told his parents he wanted to go racing. They said, okay, we'll either fund your first year of college education or give you a year of racing. So he went off to Bob Bondurant's driving school, where he met a fellow named Rob Dyson, who became a GTP car owner, gave Price his first break. There's Peter.
Boy, that looked a bit broad, didn't it? Coming to, I know the long lens tends to make it look slightly worse than it is, but I can tell you they're all pretty close together with a tremendous disparity of speed. This is one of the problems with the GT Lights, GT Camel Lights, and the GTPs together.
Rick DeBruhl has more in the pits.
Well, Price Cobb and Pete Halsman both had a little bit of a problem this morning when they went out. We talked about how cold the temperature was. What happened at the Indy 500 yesterday with cold tires, where sure enough,
Pete Halsman went out this morning, promptly spun right off the course, and teammate Bryce Cobb had to spin to miss him. Unfortunately, neither ran into anything. They were able to bring the cars back in safely, and as a result, they're out there competing in this race.
It's been an anxious first 4 or 5 races for the new Mazda GTP team. Here's the battle in Camel Lights. The blue 44 car is leading Fermin Velez and Andy Evans. Just behind that orange and white Acura of Parker Johnstone and Dan Marvin, being passed by the GTP Porsche.
Oh, and again, 98, the P.J. Jones car slips in between them as they go into turn 1. That's just not what Parker Johnstone wants. He wants to be able to get at the 44 car, and every time he gets up to it, he gets held up, believe it or not, by the lead car.
Up no name straight. PJ gets some open track. Gets around. There's the Mazda pair coming up.
Yeah, they're right there.
Up and over the brow of this hill, where so many cars over the years have lifted their front wheels here at Lime Rock, thus the chicane. Try to slow them down.
Velez, of course, Velez not going to give up any ground here at all, because he can't afford to let Parker Johnston get any closer to it. And he's done it. Parker, he lifted just a fraction there to let those cars, and Johnston got alongside him and has taken the lead of Camel Lights.
Going down the inside, following the Mazda pair. There's Tommy Kendall, just to the right of your screen.
That was a tough call for Fermin. He didn't want to block, and he didn't want to slow down either. So Parker Johnston grabbed the opportunity that was presented to him and has snatched the lead of Camel Lights. So Parker Johnson, so victorious last year, now leads.
There's a look at your top 3. Johnstone, the former musician, offered scholarships to Juilliard and the Eastman Schools of Music. He decided he'd rather be a racing driver, and he's a 5-time national champion.
Using up all the road there, getting his wheel up onto the yellow curb. Sparks coming off the underside of his car to just go on a bit further on what... There's the EDS car of Tommy Kendall. Tommy Kendall also in pain. Of course, you remember that tremendous accident that Tommy Kendall had last year at Watkins Glen. He's still getting over those injuries. And then to add to that, testing here last year that he got those severe side.
This Acura-Spice came to Lime Rock with some exotic new body work that they have dumped. Now we got a battle for the lead. On the left, Jeff Brabham desperately trying to hold off the charging Juan Manuel Fangio. This is a replay of the race a year ago when Fangio came rushing to the finish to try to catch Jeff Brabham. Missed by just a matter of seconds. Fractions of a second. I think if the race had gone one more lap, Fangio would have won it. Once again, it is a Nissan over Toyota at the front of this field.
The Nissan today looks a lot better than it looked on Saturday to me. On Saturday, particularly just in front of the booth here, they seem to be having a lot of trouble with the bumps, but they've obviously done a lot of work on the springs and dampers over the weekend that we saw so well from Rick DeBruhl there, and it looks a lot smoother this afternoon than it did last week on Saturday.
Opened up a quick lead right there. Nissan really seems to have the legs on the Toyota on the
He must have got badly balked in traffic to let the Toyota get right up.
Toyota weighs about 1,850 pounds. The Nissan right there weighs about 2,050 pounds. 200 pounds can make a difference. Now there's the 12 car up. Tommy Kendall has worked his way up from dead last, 18th. He is now running in 6th position. Tommy Kendall, who sliced 3 seconds off the old lap record himself with this car just a year ago.
And just right in front of him, only by 3 or 4 seconds, are the 2 Mazdas.
There are the 2 Mazdas just behind them. Tommy Kendall closing in.
They go into turn 2, and there comes Tommy Kendall.
6.5-liter Chevrolet small block engine, a design that is itself about 25, 30 years old. Back up front, Jeff Brabham. On the left, on the right, number 99 of Juan Manuel Fangio II. A great race for the lead here at Lime Rock.
Coming up to some lap traffic as well.
We'll watch what happens. We'll take a quick timeout and be back for more live kill here at Lime Rock Park. The overall race leader, Jeff Brabham, flies around one of the Camel Lights cars and onto the front straightaway, hotly pursued by Juan Manuel Fangio and number 99 white Toyota, the left of your screen.
That Camel Light car is Fermin Velez, who was leading the Camel Lights and has dropped off the pace alarmingly after Parker Johnston got by. Maybe we've got a problem with the car, but the Nissan hanging on to that lead. Fangio worrying away at him.
Fangio drove this Toyota Mark III to its first victory and only its second race in Portland a year ago. Now here's the battle for fourth. There's a third place Porsche, then P.J. Jones, who was a couple laps down, then the 77 Mazda of Price Cobb, who has taken over fourth place from his teammate in the identical number 78 car, Pete Halsmer. Just behind them, Tommy Kendall right there in that blue and white Chevy GTP is in sixth spot.
Price Cobb seems to have been quicker than Pete Halsmer all weekend in this GT prototype. Of course, he has a lot more experience driving GTPs than Pete Halsmer, who for the last 2 years has been driving GTO and Trans Am type cars. And I think the team probably said to Pete Halsmer, let him through, because this car, the number 12 car, Tommy Kendall, is catching him up. And having got around him, as you can see, Price Cobb has started to shoot up into the distance. He may have left it just a fraction too late.
Tommy Kendall trying to add to Chevrolet's glory this weekend. They won the Indianapolis 500 and that remarkable finish yesterday for Al Unser Jr. They also won the NASCAR Coca-Cola 600 in Charlotte yesterday in the hands of Dale Earnhardt. Whoa! That looks like Giampiero Moretti.
Giampiero Moretti in his car, which he is sharing with Massimo Segala, another Italian driver.
Moretti, the owner of the Momo Automotive Equipment Company. That is Massimo Segala on the upper right, but I believe it is Moretti in the car.
Oh.
I think he just stopped to fasten the belts, it looked like. He was looking down in his lap. He was going to do a little lawn mowing on his way back to the racetrack.
Well, probably they've gone back to do that, but still. Trouble is, of course, when you pull back on the track with a car, you have no idea what's coming. Obviously, you've got no peripheral vision at all. Can't quite work out where he is.
Making his own way. He's back in the S's there, heading towards the no-name straightaway.
Oh, there you go.
The traffic goes by. Meanwhile, second and third in the Camel Lights battle, Fermin Velez in the blue car, and in the yellow, Jim Downing, the three-time Camel Lights champion, who won those 3 titles with Mazda-powered cars. He has changed over to Buick for this year with that 3.4-liter 6-cylinder Buick.
Buick's allowed 3.4-liter, the Acura-Spice only allowed 3-liter. The Buick is a push-rod 2-valve engine as opposed to a 4-valve engine. And that was one of the rules changes that IMSA allowed this year, and it certainly seems to work. But there's obviously something wrong with the Buick. It doesn't sound right when he goes by here. And of course, they've lost out tremendously to Parker Johnston.
Both of these cars are called Kudzus, built by the man in second place there, actually third place in the Camel Lights class in the yellow car, Jim Downing at his factory down in Atlanta. Marty Reid has more on the 44 car situation. Up front, a pass for the lead. We'll get back to Marty Reid. The 99 car, Juan Manuel Fangio, has taken over the lead for the 83 of Jeff Brabham.
That was into the big bend. Fangio certainly seemed to be quicker through the diving bend and down the straight than Fangio. Came up to him a number of times into Big Bend.
Now we have to wonder whether Jeff Brabham is still feeling all right. Here's another look at the pass. Under braking for turn 1.
Boy, he certainly snuck down the inside there. Left it pretty late, but pulled it off. Be interesting to see now if he pulls away at all. It's getting held up by the 9 car now. I think we don't have in front of him. Yeah.
Not held up for long.
No.
Fangio swings to his right. Now here comes Jeff Brabham up the outside. Now here's traditional attack in turn 1. The car Jeff Brabham is driving is actually the team's test car. After a weekend at Road Atlanta, the most previous round of the Camel GT Championship, the team crashed 3 cars. Chip Robinson in practice on Friday, and then both Robinson and Brabham with tire failures in the race. 2 very scary crashes. Both drivers slightly injured, but the cars did their jobs and protected them at the cost of their own useful lives. Those 2 cars were junk. This is a built-up test car that Jeff Brabham is racing here. The backup car is the car that Chip Robinson crashed on the Friday at Road Atlanta. Both cars equipped with the Nissan twin-turbo V6 as opposed to the single-turbo 4-cylinder inline engine in the Toyota. Juan Fangio, whose young son Juan turns 1 year old today. Now there is the 7 Porsche.
Made a sudden stop. Looks like a blistered rear tire. But we have a very competent crew down there. I'll no doubt find out. Looks like something wrong with that left rear tire, which is the tire that you would expect to give up here. Or on the other hand, it just may be a regular pit stop for them. Nearly an hour into a 2-hour race.
the car of Oscar Larori, who has driven in Formula One and the World Sports Car Championship for Swiss millionaire Walter Broom. There's the race leader, Juan Manuel Fangio. As I mentioned, his son Juan, 1 year old this weekend. He was born at this weekend a year ago. The team asking Juan how his companion Viviana was doing with the pregnancy. Juan leaned out of the car as he prepared to go out and qualify and said, "We're on the white flag lap."
Puff of smoke there when he came down the hill, but I think it was just very, very close to the dirt where we saw Davy Jones go off earlier on. Put a dust, I think. There we see the Porsche and Jeff Brownlee just coming out of the pits, obviously now a lap down. The other Porsche, the 30 car, is back in the field again. He came into the pits. We don't know what happened to him exactly.
Jeff Brabham was wearing a special race produced by Jim Downing's brother-in-law, Dr. Bob Hogger, an engineer at Michigan State University. It limits the way a driver can turn his head, literally stops the helmet of the driver at a certain angle of deflection that is predetermined. Keeps that neck steady. Fangio flashing around with the Toyota Eagle Mark III. Son of the nephew, make that, of the 5-time world champion Juan Manuel Fangio. Dan Gurney calls Juan Fangio II a chip off the old uncle. We'll be with David Hobbs with you, Marty, Reid, and Rick DeBruhl in the pits. There is the overall race leader, the number 99 Toyota Eagle Mark III of Juan Manuel Fangio II. Always fun to call a race with a Fangio and a Brabham in it. Between a few hills and Stewarts and stuff like that.
Do it a couple of Hobbses, I suppose.
There is Jeff Brabham, 4-time defending Camel GT champion, running second in the race right now. Down the bumpy front straightaway they come. Now just ahead of Fangio, you see the blue and white Chevrolet, number 12 of Tommy Kendall, who was charging up in 6th place, pressuring the Mazdas in 4th and 5th, but he has now dropped well back, and he is about to be lapped by the race leader.
Now, you say he's about to be lapped. It's actually taking at least a lap. Fangio's been right behind him now for at least a lap. And Tommy was running off the pace. He was right up with those Mazdas. Looked like he was going to snatch another couple of places. And seemed to dropped off the pace. Could have been just a momentary problem. Or it could be his thighs starting to hurt. We don't know.
Tommy Kendall strained muscles in his rib cage practicing at this track back on Tuesday. Just the sheer bumpiness of the track and the G-forces built up by these incredible race cars tore the muscles in his side. He is in a great deal of pain. Let's see if we can learn more about Tommy's situation as Fangio puts a lap down.
It looks like the problem is simply playing in pain. Crew Chief Dan Biggs says that he hasn't been talking much on the radio. There is nothing wrong with the car as far as they know. It's down to so much pain going into this weekend. It looks like it's finally beginning to take its toll. You have to realize they have only run about 10 or 12 laps here this entire weekend because of the problem that Tom had. They went out and ran a little bit in the first day, just a little bit yet on the first, second qualifying day, and this morning they went out in the warm-up, and that's it. He has not been on this track much at all. The pain is taking its toll.
Well, the Camel Lights cars, that's Tom Hessert pulling off to the side of the racetrack. He evidently thinks his day might be done. He is well off to the left. You saw the similarly colored Momo Porsche GTP car, Jean-Pierre Moretti, trying desperately to get out of the way of Tom Kendall in the chicane. Up, just as I say, his day might be done.
I mean, it obviously looked like it was done, and now it seems to be running fine again.
We'll see if he pits. Meanwhile, back to the leader, Juan Manuel Fangio, number 99 Toyota. There's some question whether his teammate, P.J. Jones, is 1 lap down or 2. We have him 2 laps in arrears. The team seems to think otherwise. We'll work on that problem as well. Up and through the chicane goes Fangio. I remember watching Juan race at the Miami Grand Prix IMSA weekend back in 1985. He ran in the Mazda Inter-American Challenge, an identically prepared Mazda RX-7, much like the Toyota Celebrity race at Long Beach. In that race, Juan, who nobody knew much about at that time, came rocketing by, knocking off the likes of Emerson Fittipaldi, Roberto Guerrero, and Willie T. Ribbs. Well, we soon learned that Juan Fangio II is for real. He is leading this race. Now, there's the 3rd place, make that 4th place, Mazda, Pete Halsmer in the pits. Fuel and tires. Everything looks fairly routine here.
I think they got trouble with the right wheel. I think they want the car lifted up again. Yeah, the wheel's still loose. He hasn't got the nut on. The mechanic there getting pretty disgusted because they dropped the car off the track. and that meant, of course, he couldn't push the wheel home fully. Oh, now what do we got?
Let me correct this. This car was in 3rd place when it pitted because teammate Prix Cobb had already pitted, so had the number 7 Porsche, dropping them through the back. Long pit stop for Pete Halsmer as he makes his way back out.
Drops the lap onto the leader. Jack up at the back.
It is.
It's down, isn't it?
The jack is still down at the rear.
It's not right now, but it's down pretty far. Especially here. I mean, that catching on the track, it could rip the whole bracket off the back. Is that the Momo car, or is that the Hesser?
That's the Hesser Camel Light car still limping around. Here's a look at our race summary thus far. Juan Fangio is the leader, has led the last 27 laps. We've had 2 caution flags, including one when Davy Jones, the pole sitter and early race leader, had a horrifying crash at the first corner. Fortunately, he climbed out okay, although the same could not be said for his Jaguar. 7 cars are on the lead lap. The average speed nearly 100 miles an hour on a 1.54-mile track with 10 turns. Out of the race right now, Wayne Taylor and Hugh Fuller was their Chevrolet GTP. And as I mentioned, Davy Jones, the first to go out. Lap leaders, Juan Fangio, Davy Jones, and Jeff Brabham. Fangio, I believe, is in a narrow race with Jeff Brabham for laps led at this point, and that all-important bonus point that goes with it. Fangio second in Camel GT Championship points, Jeff Brabham third.
Both these guys want to finish in those 2 positions. Obviously, they'd rather swap them around if they want to make any serious impression on Davy Jones, who's a comfortable lead at the moment. Of course, not going to score any points today other than his single point for pole position. An idea there just how bumpy this straight is. That car just absolutely waltzing down the straight there. Whoa! That's the 98 car of PJ Jones. Looks like his day's done.
Just behind him, our onboard camera in the car for Reid, and I think you're watching the death rattle from that Toyota. Killing mosquitoes all the way down the backstretch. What if you try to follow him?
You can't see where you're going. Oh, look at that. That's incredible. Like a battleship, isn't it? The trouble with that is, he doesn't, like we don't know where that car is. It could be stopped or anything in there.
He's got a right-hander coming up. I think PJ would be well advised to park it.
Grass. He's not very far from the pit entry there, so about to come past us here.
There's a look at PJ Jones, elder brother of Paige Jones, and the ongoing.
And another car has erupted as it goes into the pits. The 45 car is also laying down a huge layer of smoke.
45 car of Charles Morgan. We saw him have some problems a little bit earlier. He was stopped and starting and stopped and starting. That's a Buick-powered machine. One of the Kudzus, named for a weed that grows down in the southern United States. Here comes PJ like a locomotive into the pits.
I think the smoke, could be something. I mean, if it's not fixable, but these turbo engines, they've got an oil seal on the turbo. And that could easily be what the trouble is.
Let's get down to the pits and Rick DeBruhl.
Well, he came in, and obviously, as you could see, with a lot of stuff coming out the back, it does not smell like smoke necessarily. It looks like some type of steam, but once again, they had that oil problem just a little bit earlier, but they thought it was just a loose line. They reconnected the line, and they felt they'd solved the problem. Now, this could be an indication, perhaps, that something else was wrong, obviously, indeed. The question is whether it's that same line that came loose before. There is a little puddle of oil on a back part of the bodywork, so they indeed have something seriously wrong.
Well, no concerns about how many laps down PJ Jones is now. That looks fairly fatal for him. Whoop! The 2 Mazdas came together. You see Pete Halsmer getting back on the track. Halsmer in the S's, just ahead of him is his teammate Prix Cobb. That would be a major breach of protocol. Here's another look.
Well, they don't call him Concrete Pete for nothing, I'll tell you that. It's taken me 4 years, Pete, but I finally got to you.
David, of course, refers to an incident he had with Pete Halsmer back in the Tampa World Challenge a few short years ago. He wound up on ESPN's highlight reel for his delicate estimation of Pete's driving skills. Let's get down to Marty Reid in the pits.
Well, you were talking about the Mazdas, guys. Their 2 pit stops, both were very sloppy. It seems like it's transferring itself out on the course because both guys came in, and I think what it is because it's the first time the team has run both cars, and the pit crews just haven't had time to practice working with two cars.
I agree completely with you, Marty. I recall when the Toyota team lost races by bundling pit stops, but they have come together in a championship outfit, and Dick St. Ives and the boys of Mazda will get their team together as well. I think that's exactly what it is. They just haven't raced.
Well, it's also the drivers themselves haven't been practicing, because it's one thing to go out and do testing and testing and testing. It's another thing to get in the race, which I think is what makes yesterday afternoon's performance by Alan Senior absolutely mind-blowing. He gets in a car and he laps at 220 miles an hour all afternoon, hasn't driven a car for 2 years.
And finishes one of the few Buick-powered cars that made it all the way to the end. Let me say for the record, I think both drivers in those Mazdas might be equally at blame for that little problem. Certainly Price didn't lift at all. Pete was right there at his door handle. Now this is a battle for position. It's Jeff Brabham.
This is why Price wanted to get by. See, Price is running quicker than Pete.
And going under Jeff Brabham. That is for...
second. No, Pete's a lap down. Cobb's a lap down.
77 is a lap down. That's right. He's making up one lap on Brabham, but of course the guy he's got to worry about is Juan Fangio out front. The running order right now as we work lap number 71 is Fangio. Jeff Brabham right there on the 83 runs second, and they are the only two cars on the lead lap.
But of course they're the other two cars that haven't stopped for their pit stop yet too.
David Tennyson running a quiet race, but he is in third place right now in that Chevrolet Spice. The number 12 car of Tommy Kendall is now in fourth. And then the Mazdas. There's the race leader.
Tommy Kendall has obviously decided to try and finish this race, albeit at a slightly slower pace. He rocketed up to the field. He was right with those Mazdas. And now David Tennyson is back past him. So I think that Kendall is really trying to be careful.
P.J. Jones is now out of the car, and he's standing by with Rick.
Well, PJ, you came in with an awful lot of smoke behind you. What was the problem?
Turbocharger. We just lost a turbocharger. I think they're going to fix it. We're going to go back out and try to cruise around and get some points. I mean, it was an unfortunate day. We were running really strong at the beginning, just kind of hanging there. And all of a sudden, we came in with an oil leak under the yellow, and it got us 2 laps down. And so after that, we're just in it trying to get some points. Unfortunate day for the Toyota team. The guys worked real hard.
We've got a lot of pit action going on behind you, Rick. The Nissan is in the pits. Also, Tommy Kendall is in the pits. These are the second and third place cars. It's looking fairly routine there for Brabham. He is out of the car. You can see the neck brace he's wearing. And Chip Robinson will get in with that bum shoulder after his crash and flip at Road Atlanta. Now here comes Tommy Kendall out of the pits. The only driver scheduled to be in this car today.
I must say that with Wayne Taylor being out of the race in the other one of these Chevrolet prototypes, I didn't think they might put Wayne Taylor in that car.
Here comes Chip Robinson onto the track, the defending champion in the Lime Rock Grand Prix. He has not had an awful lot of time on the racetrack. We'll see how quickly he can get up to speed. Tentatively, he runs in second place. Juan Fangio leads. A great driver change in pit stop for the Nissan team. But Fangio is the leader at the Toyota Trucks Lime Rock Grand Prix. We'll be back. Line constraints. We move ahead to the later laps of the Toyota Trucks Lime Rock Grand Prix. Back live on the short back straightaway here at Lime Rock. The overall race leader, Juan Manuel Fangio, with a 27-second lead over the second place Nissan of Chip Robinson. But Fangio had a very scary moment just a couple of laps ago while we were in commercial, coming down the hill alongside Claude Brana in a Chevy GTP car. Whack right on the driver's side door for Brana. Apparently no damage to the car. That is some turn to be making contact here.
It looks all right.
Everyone looked at this car when Dan Gurney's All-American Racers introduced it a year ago, said, my, how can that thing work? In fact, I recall you, David Hobbs, saying, what kind of downforce can they get out of that
because
car?
It doesn't look anything like it looked when we saw the pictures. All those chin spoilers, the wing is completely different. It's a very different animal to the one that was first shown.
Way to get out of it, son Joe. The car won in its second start in the hands of Juan Fangio in Portland, Oregon. That event will be coming up later this year live here on ESPN. You saw Juan just rocking around Tommy Kendall as a broken valve spring, we're told.
Oh, is that what it is? It sounds terrible going past you.
Now the leader is heading for the pit lane. Fangio coming in for the second time today. Let's get down to the pit lane and Rick DeBruhl.
Fangio comes in. This is the scheduled stop. They came in early during that first yellow, so their window of opportunity was a lot longer. As a result, they were simply hoping that there would be a yellow flag. As it worked out, there was not one, but it did allow them to go a little bit longer. Now, this is a routine stop. They've changed the tires. They're doing all the work they've expected. Get the fuel in, and they're going to get back out in 18 seconds. 20.4 is the exact.
Meanwhile, Jim Robinson has gotten his lap back.
Of course, having waited that long now, it'll be absolutely cataclysmic for this team if there is a caution flag sort of now.
Juan Fangio making his way around. About 40 minutes remain in this race. There you can see he's very close to the race record. We've had just 2 caution flags, one of them lengthy for Davy Jones, the other quite short. Smoke coming out of the exhaust. They're running that Toyota very rich. They've got a lot of fuel in it now. They can afford to run it cool and rich. Meanwhile, on the front straightaway, about half a lap away, there is Jim Robinson in the second place, 83 Nissan. They are on the same lap together. Robinson pulling up on the number 19 car of David Tennyson. Jim Robinson,
must be leading now, surely.
The 1987 Series champion, still shown in second place.
Two abreast down No Name Straight. Denon car coming in from chicane. David Jones doing a good job of that.
He's about to go a lap down for Robinson. Chip, for the second straight year, is touring all of the IMSA Camel GT race stops in a 40-foot motor coach, towing a Nissan Pathfinder vehicle behind it. This is one of his favorite stops. He serves as a national spokesperson for the Big Brothers and Big Sisters, actually.
I think he thought David Tennyson was going to get him go through there, and old Chipper's little old heart giving a bit of a beat there. Missed a couple of beats, no doubt. There's the 99 car of Fangio going to the same corner into the left-hander. The only real left-hand corner in this entire complex. It's amazing, with 10 corners. There's that one left-hander there, and there's a little left-hander in the chicane, and that's it. Everything else is right-hander, which is one of the reasons why Tom Kendall's side gave out so badly on the other day, forcing the G-load, pushing his ribcage onto the seat, and then, of course, bouncing up and down, separated the muscle under his arm, inside of his chest.
These cars generate some 6,000 to 8,000 pounds of downforce, that aerodynamic effect, sculpting the car's shape to work like an airplane wing upside down, to force the car down rather than picking it up.
Of course, once it gets bumpy like this, the downforce changes dramatically, because as the car pops up into the air, and as Dan Gurney said just a few moments ago, there is a small area there where the downforce works at its most effective, and if it bounces out of that, both either closes it up between the road and the car too much, or opens the gap up too much, the downforce changes, of course, unbelievably on these cars.
This is the leading car. The second place car, just going out of your picture, is Chip Robinson. Now here comes the third place car, Price Cobb. Excuse me, fourth place car, the number 77 car, just ahead of him. The number 19 car of David Tennyson is in third place.
What an afternoon those masters have had. I mean, just got off the year to a very, bad start. One way and another, that heating problem, exhaust pipe was their main problem. But boy, they've really got their act together now.
Price Cobb in the 77 Silver Mazda closing up. Now here's Jim Downing, the car he is sharing with Tim McAdam in the pits. Slow wheel change there at the left rear corner. Now this is a battle for the lead in Camel Lights. Dan Marvin going underneath.
I think that's still the last.
Only twisting there on the dashboard.
I think it's just his brake balance. Putting more or less braking on the front or the rear of the car. Unless he's changing the sway bar.
Twisting it again.
Looks to me like he's putting more brakes on the front of the car.
Meanwhile, the battle for third in the overall class. The GTP cars. Price Cobb right there now with David Tennyson.
The rotary engine, of course, is an amazing thing. This is a 4-rotor. And it's amazing how quickly down the corners compared to that big engine, the big 6.3 litre. It hangs right on there.
What a mechanical comparison there. The Spice chassis, which has been around for several years with that big Chevy V8. Behind them, the 4-rotor Mazda in this brand new and very, very elegant design from Lee Dykstra, who has designed so many successful race cars over the years. Built at the team's headquarters in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Price Cobb thought he'd ever go down here. Look at him hanging on to it. The car looks good over the bumps too, doesn't it? It seems to be riding these bumps better than most cars here. Having a look down the inside on the left handle. Now then, wants to make a good shot coming off here. Getting himself right behind the car in front of him, the Tennyson car as it goes to the chicane. Looks like any plans that he may be making are all going to be messed up by the Camel Lights. And Jim down in the car we just saw stuck in the pit. And they exit the chicane. Whoa!
And Price sees his opening and grabs it.
Good bit of driving there by Price Cobb. Much more experience, of course, than David Tennyson. Much more experience.
Meanwhile, the Camel Lights leader is in the pits. Now, this is Fermin Velez. He will hand that car over to Andy Evans. He must be second place in class because we've seen Dan Marvin go by him. They'll have to make this quick if they are not to go a lap down in the class. Let's get down to Marty Reid.
You're right, guys. They are second place at this point. The short Fermin Velez goes over to the tall Andy Evans. Now, they are going to take a look at the right rear if they can fix it. What's happening is it's sort of staggering down the straightaways because it's bottoming out on the right rear and the suspension. That's why they've been falling back. They are not making any adjustments to the rear, so obviously they think they cannot fix it without doing some major work. So he's going to have to tough it out. So really, in essence, it's going to be Acura's race to win or lose from this point because the car is actually tracking down sideways almost like you'd see a car going down the street with a bent frame.
Andy Evans climbs in with some 32 minutes remaining in this 2-hour race. Working both hands on the gear lever to his right. He'll have something less than a clear windshield as he heads back out onto the racetrack. With that paint job from automotive artist Randy Owens, he is back on the racetrack, but I believe he is a lap down to the overall Camel Lights leader. We will be back for more live from the Lime Rock Grand Prix.
In case you need to push your truck.
Clouds are looming overhead, cutting off some of the sunshine, keeping the track a little bit cool, but it's still about 70 degrees with less than 30 minutes remaining in this 2-hour Toyota Trucks Lime Rock Grand Prix. Let's get down to the pit lane and Rick DeBruhl.
Tom Kendall, you tried to struggle on today. You know, we talked all day about how badly you were feeling, but your car's feeling worse. What went wrong?
Well, something sounded like it dropped a valve. You know, just all of a sudden, right after our pit stop, we'd gotten back out and held on to third spot. And we're just going to try to finish there and maybe hope for some more trouble up in front. And just all of a sudden lost power, so that was all there was to it.
How's Tom Kendall feeling?
Oh, I feel like I've been beaten up a little bit by Mike Tyson.
The rib okay? The side okay?
Yeah, it was bearable. You know, it wasn't, when I got numbed up for qualifying, I couldn't even feel it, and that was great. Today, for some reason, it wasn't as numb after I got the injection, but it was at least bearable. And finishing the race wouldn't have been a problem.
You were hoping for attrition, but you didn't get it. Tom Kendall out of the race.
Tom Kendall, who a week from next Sunday will drive in the Sears Point Winston Cup stock car race as a teammate to Kyle Petty in Sabco Racing. He's going to have to get himself back in shape before then, driving that big stock car around Sears Point. The 99 Toyota, Juan Manuel Fangio, leads the race. He has led the most laps, so he'll pick up a bonus point.
Getting alongside Claude Branner there in the 6th car. A lot of faith there.
That's the guy he came together with down the downhill right-hander.
He's already had one going in this afternoon. Tom Kendall, of course, has got a tremendous point, or you got a point about being fit for these races. I don't think people realize just how fit you do have to be for these races. And 3 or 4 hours at Sears Point in a stock car, even though it doesn't generate anything like the grip that these cars do, it's still extremely hard work. And of course, when you've been in as badly as Tom was last year, it's very hard to keep in shape. How are you going to go running or bicycling or whatever if your feet and legs are all bust up? Kind of difficult to do.
Flashing by one of the Camel Lights cars, the Bellray Oils machine. Tim McAdam from Colorado now in that car. Juan Manuel Fangio with at least a half-lap lead over the second-place car of Chip Robinson. They are together on the lead lap. Behind them, Price Cobb is all alone 1 lap down, as you see Chip Robinson. I mentioned that he is a national spokesman for the Big Brothers and Big Sisters programs nationally. He has about a dozen kids from the Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Meriden, Wallingford, Connecticut. Here is his guest this weekend. Here's Marty Reid.
Well, we talked to Cass Caster and asked him how's Chip holding up, and he says fine so far, no problem with his shoulder. So it looks as though he may be able to go the distance, but it looks like they'll also need some help from Toyota. Little trivia here for you as you're looking at Chip in second place. In 1979, the book says, in fact, David Hobbs finished second out here, but David, they misspelled your name. H-O-I-B-B-S.
Wow, that's just typical. Typical.
Did it phonetically, huh? Now this is a battle. The number 19 Denon car of David Tennyson. Pete Halsmer just behind him. This is for 4th place. We already saw Price Cobb in one of the Mazdas go rocketing by. Now here comes Halsmer up the inside, and he'll take over 4th, dropping the young Canadian to 5th.
David Tennyson giving up rather easily there. David, you better be just a bit more aggressive than that.
Now remember, he wasn't 100% physically coming in. Jay Cochran is standing by to relieve him. Looks like David will go all the way, but he is going to be one tired puppy.
As Jeff Brabham said, it's very easy to fade. The last professional race I did was at Dijon in 1990, and that's right here. It's all right-hand turn, short, street, but a lot of long right-handed. Boy, I tell you what, I was hanging in there in the end. There you see the Mazda bouncing down the straight, but I don't think it bounces as bad as the Toyota somehow. It looks just a bit smooth. It's very good indeed. Lee Dykstra was one of the great race engineers. He had the Jaguars.
Does that man look like he's 47 years old to you?
Looks like about 147 to me. Oh, sorry, Pete. I see what you mean.
Pete Halsmer finished second to Al Unser Jr. in the 1991 Sports Car Club of America Super V Championship. How people's paths go in different directions, don't they?
Yeah, he was the first over 40 to win the Super V Championship. Look at it bouncing down the straight there into turn 1. Some of the guys come down the inside of the straight. It's just a little bit smoother, but of course it cuts off the line horribly into Big Bend, and you can make up so much time on that long double apex right-hander. Not that Fangio's got much to worry about. He's got this race pretty well locked up, so he can afford to look at all his instruments, take his time, short shift, rev the car just a little bit less on the upshift, let it run out down the straightaway. But as you come out of corners like this chicane, you just don't have to, rev the just take it steady. You don't have to use the dirt at the edge of the road, which can always risk giving yourself a puncture. Just look at that rolled up rubber there at the bottom of the hill there. You can see it on that camera.
That's called race craftsmanship, and right now Juan Fangio is a consummate race craftsman. He has come from behind. He is leading this race. We'll show you the top 10, and we'll be right back live. Both sides. There are no grandstands here at Lime Rock, just these beautiful natural hills, and a huge crowd on hand to watch the Lime Rock Grand Prix. There are the Camel Lights standings. Dan Marvin leads Andy Evans, Jim Downing. There you see David Tennyson pulling out of the pits in his GTP car, running in the open division. He was up as high as second in this race at one point. Now he runs no better than 5th, 2 laps down to the overall race leader, Juan Fangio II.
You can see in all these low camera shots the incredible amount of rolled up rubber lying around the edge of this track. And of course, if you get in that, you can find yourself skating off the road pretty smartly. Just acts like little ball bearings.
David Tennyson won this race in Camel Lights just 1 year ago. Now the Camel Lights racing continues. That is Jim Downing, the Tim McAdam machine, about to go another lap down in 3rd place to the white and orange number 49, Dan Marvin, just behind. The Acura really has the day. We said it was going to be a close battle with the Buicks. It just hasn't turned out that way today. Now you're on board with the 2nd place car in Camel Lights. This is Andy Evans.
Up to the chicane.
There he is. Andy Evans, who drove in an event called the Jaguar Sport International Challenge a year ago, driving road-going Jaguar XJ220 supercars in a 3-race, $1 million winner-take-all championship. 3 events at the British Grand Prix at Silverstone, the Grand Prix at Monaco, and then the Belgian Grand Prix at Spa. He didn't win.
There you see that double apex bend, comes away from the bend in right back, making a late apex.
8th place overall on the racetrack. 2nd in Camel Lights.
Down to turn 2, doing that right, keeping well in. Get some speed up along No Name Straight, which is really about the 2nd fastest part on this racetrack. Very fast along here. It's not very straight, but it's fast. Comes to the chicane. Right up under it. This is a very quick corner in one of these. Of course, the Camel Lights, they may not have the horsepower the GTP cars have, but they still whistle through these fast corners extremely fast. A lot of downforce.
350 to 400 horsepower as opposed to the 700 horsepower, the big GTP cars. 3rd place Camel Lights car, Tim McAdam, about to be lapped by this car, the 2nd place car of Andy Evans.
And right behind them, of course, is Banjo, the leader. Going to come and put a lap on Pete Halsmer there in the number 78 car. Boy, that's fast. No, that's 77. That's Price Cobb.
Here, whoa, spinners.
Nissan. This is the Nissan spun.
That's Chip Robinson right there.
That's Big Ben. That's turn 1. He's obviously got involved with his Camel Light car. That's the 55 car.
That is the Dave Rocha car. Rocha from San Antonio, Texas. Chip's got a
Chip will be steamed up and done some damage to his car. Doesn't look like it. Can't see anything hanging off it. Oh, it's bent the rear wing. The rear wing end plate there has been bent in.
You see David Rocha making a return to the series. He was a series regular all his years. Hasn't run much this year. Let's take another look at what happened. Rocha never saw him coming.
Yeah. It is irritating when you're being lapped for the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th time, or you're lapping someone for the 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th time. Especially when they're not in contention, that they can't just let you through.
The windshield came out of Rocha's car. I saw a piece of glass fly off. I thought it was the left side window, but it's actually the windshield of that car. A few years ago, there is David Rocha. The Camel Lights class was won by David Loring, driving a GTP Lights car of his own design, and he did the last half of the race with the windshield out. He said it was such a hot day, I was getting a lot of air, I kind of enjoyed it.
Think about these Lights cars, of course, or any GTP car, there's nowhere for the air to go once it goes in the windscreen. It just creates a tremendous amount of drag.
The 98 car, by the way, of P.J. Jones back in the race. There he is with a new turbocharged going like stink. Watch him fly. Ooh, PJ, a little twist there. This is his first season driving these high horsepower turbocharged cars, visiting a lot of racetracks for the first time. He had never driven here at Lime Rock in a GTP car. Seems to have it handled just fine. He is running, of course, many laps behind to his teammate Juan Fangio.
How long have they been stopped? 45 minutes, an hour? 45 minutes a minute. Mind you, with the attrition, they can still do
there's a good look at the bent rear end plate on that wing. Yeah, definitely.
The funny thing is, it didn't hit that wing. I wonder how the heck that happened. It's certainly bent, though, isn't it?
Nevertheless, Chip Robinson remains in 2nd place. He is down now to the leader. Juan Fangio having it all his way on a beautiful early summer afternoon at Lime Rock Park in the Litchfield Hills of Connecticut. There you see David Rocha getting himself a new windshield. We'll be right back.
In case you need to push your...
The Toyota Trucks Lime Rock Grand Prix. Juan Fangio, who has led the most laps. Chip Robinson filling into the Nissan with Jeff Brabham. Pete Halsmer has passed his teammate Price Cobb, who stopped for a last splash of fuel. 9 cars remain in the race of the 18 that started. The Toyota of Juan Fangio is all alone on the lead lap. There is Price Cobb, the number 77 Mazda, about to be lapped by the race leader.
Is that 49 car slowing down? Is that 49 car slowing down? It's horribly like it to me.
There is Chip Robinson.
Leader of the Camel Lights? Maybe he was.
Dan Marvin letting the overall race leader go by. Chip Robinson trying to make up his lap. We have less than 10 minutes remaining in this 2-hour race. Now, there may be a problem for the Camel Lights leader, Dan Marvin. Ooh, right at the chicane there, got tail happy. I'm wondering if he's having a problem. He is on doesn't as well.
Looks like he slowed up a lot, doesn't it?
There is time yet for the second place car.
Of course, if he's got a lap lead, he doesn't have any need to rush, of course. Just a few minutes to go.
Now, depending on how slow he goes. Now, we saw the second place car of Andy Evans stop with a broken gearbox as you watch Dan Marvin. At this point, I'm not quite clear on who the second place car on the lights is, but the crew says that Dan Marvin is just taking it easy at this point. So they look to be pretty well clear of the field in Camel Lights. That will allow them to pull away in the manufacturer's standings, and the driving team of Parker Johnstone and Dan Marvin will fatten their lead over the second place tandem of Fermin Velez and Andy Evans in the Drivers' Championship.
Now you see the 99 car, the leader, has just passed Bryce Cobb, and there's the 83 car just doing the same thing. Bryce Cobb just a few seconds behind Pete Halsma. So maybe Bryce Cobb was heavy-footing a bit, used up more fuel, had to make a quick stop, and paid the price. Halsma now running in first one.
Once again with Dan Marvin, the sheer diversity of engines makes for very entertaining listening in a Camel GT race. Each car, each engine with a very different engine sound. The high-pitched scream of the rotary Mazda, the high-revving Jaguar, the muffled turbo cars. It's a great show. Dan Marvin owns a car restoration business, or co-owns it. His home in Berkeley, California. Spends his weekends racing. He's one of those guys who spent 20 years becoming an overnight sensation. Parker Johnstone says, "Way to go, pal. Keep me in the championship lead." Dan Marvin broke into Camel GT racing with Joe Huffaker, whose shops are out in Sears Point, California. Took Pontiac to the Camel Lights Championship. Now he's trying to do the same for Acura, the defending champions in Camel Light. We may someday hear the scream of Honda's V10 or V12 engines in GTP racing. Here comes the white 99 Toyota of Juan Fangio II, just behind the blue, red, and white 83 Nissan of Chip Robinson, who's a lap down, but running in second place in this race. And every point will count.
He's kind of driving like he doesn't think he's a lap down, isn't he?
There's one guy who's never going to give up on the racetrack, and it's Chip Robinson. Who cares if I have 4 minutes to go? If I can get by, there's always a chance. And at least he was back on the lead lap. Chip Robinson 3 times, the last 3 years in a row, has finished second to his teammate, Jeff Brabham. Chip's contract with the Nissan team is up this year. And there is a chance, we understand, that Nissan may come back to a one-car team, which would leave Chip Robinson, the 87 Series champion, somewhat out in the cold. Now let's get down to Rick DeBruhl in the pits.
Well, what do you worry about when you're 1 lap ahead? You worry about how many laps are left in the race. This is a timed race, and as a result, if you go too fast and you pass the starting stand at just the wrong moment, you could end up doing an entire extra lap. So they're trying to figure out to make sure they don't make him go too fast, so he doesn't have to go that extra mile or so. The result, well, you never know what can happen when you race that extra mile. They're not slowing him down. It's just something they want to think about and be concerned about.
Like Le Mans, where you don't want to pass the start-finish line before the hour is done. Otherwise, you've got to go 8 point.
I was going to say, you've got to go 8.5 mile lap, and a lot could happen at 8.5 miles.
Indeed. Across the finish line one more time with barely 2 minutes to go in this 2-hour Lime Rock Grand Prix. It's been a Toyota day for Juan Fangio. His teammate P.J. Jones, despite huge mechanical problems, is out there on the racetrack once again, having replaced a turbocharger. The series-leading Jaguar of Davy Jones is out. Jones will remain in the lead in the Drivers' Championship. But Jaguar will be caught up in the GTP Manufacturers' Championship. And Juan Fangio, it appears at this point, will draw within 7 or 8 points of Jones for the driver's title. Jeff Brabham will get close to those leaders. It's going to be a great season of racing on the Camel GT Tour. They will go next to Mid-Ohio next weekend. 5 days between races for these teams.
Yeah, this is the toughest week of the year, and hot race races, tough on the drivers, tough on the cars. And practice starts there on Thursday, so Monday evening now. Soon go by when you're trying to get your car loaded up, prepared, ready. Very, very tough on the mechanics and crew.
I believe Juan Fangio's teammate, P.J. Jones, doing quick arithmetic in my head, will move into 4th place in the Drivers' Championship behind Davy Jones, Fangio, and Brabham. Oscar Larari will move up into 5th. 1 minute to go. One more lap. If Juan Fangio does not plant that right foot, he can take this one slowly now. Once more around this 1.54-mile circuit. There you see Oscar Larari and David Tennyson. There is the leader in Camel Lights, Dan Marvin, teamed with Parker Johnstone. They appear well on their way to their 3rd victory of the year. Once more through the West Bend, under the bridge and downhill once more through that hard right-hander, throwing 3 G's of side force. And here comes Juan, blazing down the front straightaway. Will there be a checkered flag? Yes. Juan Fangio picks up his 2nd victory of 1992. The winner at the 12 Hours of Sebring picks up a 2-hour victory here at Lime Rock, Connecticut. There is Dan Marvin. He and Parker Johnstone share the victory in Camel Lights. Keep in mind, Dan Marvin has to make his way all the way around. Only this man has taken the checkered flag thus far. The rest of the cars make their way around. Juan Fangio waves to the crowd, going the whole way solo in what must be a very warm cockpit. Down the straight comes Price Cobb. Here comes Dan Marvin. Once more under the bridge, and the checkered flag waits in the hand of IMSA flagman Jim Sidley. Here he comes. Once more over the bumps, and they're behind him for another year.
Yeah.
So the Acura team, under Doug Peterson and Don Erb, Comtech Acura, will fatten their lead in Camel Lights, while the Toyota boys move up on the leading Jaguars. We'll be back to meet our winner when we return to a beautiful summer afternoon at Lime Rock, Connecticut. Summer sunshine. The overall winner in this race, Juan Manuel Fangio II for Toyota. Chip Robinson in a Nissan joins Jeff Brabham in 2nd. Pete Halsmer finishes 3rd, and Price Cobb 4th for Mazda and their brand new cars. A great afternoon. And David Tennyson with a gutsy performance finishes 5th for Chevrolet. In the Camel Lights class, Dan Marvin and Parker Johnstone will share the win for Acura. Jim Downing and Tim McAdams 2nd in their Buick-Kudzu. David Rocha, sharing with Mark Rodriguez, finishes 3rd. Let's get down to Victory Lane, where the celebration is about to begin. Let's meet Juan Fangio and his 1-year-old son, Juan, with Marty Reid.
Do you know that Dad gave son a 1-year-old birthday present? It's his birthday today, Juan?
Yes, he's 1 year old, and he was born right before qualifying last year. And I said to the guys, when I find out it was just before qualifying, I jumped into the car. I did qualify, and after that I say, well, guys, I have something to tell you. We have a new member of the family. And that was right before qualifying here in Lime Rock, and now he is today 1 year old.
Let's talk about this race. You were spectacular. How bad was the track conditions and then the heat in the cockpit?
It was very bad. The track condition was very bad, and after some laps, everything, of course, with the heat on the shocks and everything started to get worse. But everything stayed together. I mean, the guys did a wonderful job. You don't know how much you need to work to have everything in one piece in this racetrack. It's, I think, the shorter and more demanding racetrack in the IMSA circuit.
Well, you won at Sebring, 12-hour endurance race. You've now won a sprint race. Do you realize by our unofficial count, you're 8 points from the driver's lead?
Oh, that sounds great, but I don't want to think too much about it.
Congratulations on a great win. Let's go to Rick DeBruhl.
Down here with Chip Robinson, second place finisher. We were concerned all day about your health. Let's start with that. How are you feeling after that?
I feel great. I mean, my shoulder doesn't bother me at all. You know, I did about an hour, and I feel great. You know, this track, though, is just so terrible. I mean, I don't like to complain much, but these cars are just so far above this place, and you know, you're out there and you're just crashing from bump to bump, and it's beating people up, and you know, you just feel like you're tearing the cars to pieces, and they have to do something about this place.
As a driver, how do you compensate for that? What do you do during the race to make up for that?
Well, I mean, you know, it's dangerous. The bumps are so bad here that your belts loosen up so much that you're sliding around inside the car, and you can hardly take your hand off the wheel to tighten the belts. And, of course, if you get into a crash and you've got loose belts, it's very dangerous. You can slip out of them, and, you know, they just have to do something about this place. We just can't keep coming back here with the facility and the track surface the way it is. It's really, really bad. And I know the track's not going to like me saying that, but something's got to be done.
Frustrated Chip Robinson, but finishing in second place.
We're going to take a quick timeout here at Lime Rock. After the commercial, we'll be at the Baseball Today studios to check in with Gary Miller and then more from Lime Rock. Stay with DeBruhl and Marty Reid with you. Here's a look at our Camel Lights standings. Dan Marvin and Parker Johnstone finished first for Acura. Jim Downing and Tim McAdams second, followed by David Rocha and Mark Rodriguez. Andy Evans and Fermin Velez. Bob Shader and Tom Hessert finish in fifth place. Huge crowd still on hand for more of the action that will continue throughout the afternoon, including vintage cars here at Lime Rock. Let's get down to Marty Reid right now and meet our Camel Lights winners.
Well, a very happy Parker Johnstone on the right and Dan Marvin on the left. Parker, first I want to start off with you because in the early going, that was a great race that you had going with Fermin Velez. What was the strategy there?
Well, we knew at the very beginning that the Scandia car had started on a little softer tire choice than we had. And I also had to start on sticker tires. We didn't have a chance to scrub them before the race. So I knew within the first few laps that the car was absolutely perfectly balanced. It's one of the nicest race cars. I mean, these guys keep giving me great race cars. They gave me another one. It was just a matter of time until the race had come back to us. So I had some problems in traffic, never really got rattled, and sure enough, we just kept coming back on top of Fermin, and when the moment was right, we got by. The car got better and better. It was just a matter of me not making any mistakes and bringing it home.
Dan, you guys were really strong, no doubt about it, because in the beginning with the qualifying, only a tenth of a second separating those two cars. You got in and basically just had to listen for all the bumps and the grinds. What about track condition? Chip Robinson was just very critical of everything out there.
Well, our BFG tires are so good they even work when they're in the air. Yeah, the track is no prize. This is an old track, and I'm not sure you'd say it's outlived its usefulness, but it needs some attention, definitely. As far as my ride, Parker did all my homework for me.